There comes a moment in everyone's life when you quietly stop recognizing yourself. You laugh at things that don't feel funny anymore. You chase goals that no longer excite you. You look around and realize the version of you that once fit so perfectly in your world now feels like a stranger living in your body. That's the moment your soul whispers, "It's time to outgrow this." But here's the truth most people never hear. Outgrowing yourself doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're evolving. It means the universe is gently pulling you toward the next version of your peace, your purpose, your truth. The old you was built for survival. The new you is being built for peace. So before you try to go back, before you fight to remain the same, pause. Because maybe, just maybe, the person you're becoming is far more beautiful than the one you've been clinging to. Today, let's explore Buddhist lessons that will teach you how to love yourself enough to outgrow the old you. Not with guilt, not with fear, but with deep understanding and peace. 1. Stop watering the dead plants of your past. Your energy is sacred. It is the fuel that shapes the quality of your life, your peace, and your destiny. Yet many of us waste this precious energy by pouring it into what no longer exists. We keep watering the gardens of our past, hoping that something dead will suddenly come back to life. We revisit old arguments in our minds, replay conversations that ended long ago, and hold on to relationships that have already served their purpose. It's like standing in a burned forest, holding a watering can, believing that if we care enough, the ashes will bloom again. But life doesn't work that way. The Buddha taught that clinging to what is gone blinds you to what's growing now. When you keep feeding the past, you stop nourishing the present. The truth is, not everything that once brought you comfort deserves your energy forever. Some chapters of your life were never meant to be permanent. They were meant to teach, to shape, to awaken you. Think of the friends who drifted away, the dreams that once excited you but now feel empty, the habits that used to protect you but now limit you. They all played a role in your evolution, but now they belong to another season of your life. Holding on to them out of nostalgia or guilt is like refusing to clean out a garden full of weeds. You block the sunlight from reaching new seeds waiting to grow. When you continue to water the dead plants of your past, you are sending a message to the universe that you are not ready for renewal. You tell yourself, maybe it can be like it was before. But every time you look back, you rob your present of power. You can't plant new flowers when your hands are still clutching wilted petals. Love yourself enough to stop giving life to what has already completed its purpose. Sometimes this means forgiving yourself for mistakes you still replay in your head. You can't change what happened, but you can change what you learn from it. If you spoke harshly, forgive. If you stayed too long where you weren't valued, forgive. If you chased people who never saw your worth, forgive. Because forgiveness is the sunlight that allows new life to grow inside you. The past doesn't need to be fixed. It just needs to be released with gratitude. A relationship that once made you smile, a job that once gave you meaning, a version of you that once helped you survive. All of them were stepping stones. But when their purpose is fulfilled, the kindest thing you can do is let them rest in peace. Real love is not holding on. It's understanding that everything has its season. The flower doesn't mourn when its petals fall. It trusts that spring will come again. To stop watering the dead plants of your past, you must first trust that new seeds are already being planted for you. Every time you release an attachment, you make space for something better. Something that matches the person you are becoming. Don't fear the emptiness that comes after letting go. That emptiness is sacred ground. It's the space where the universe can finally plant the blessings meant for your next chapter. So today, take a deep breath. Close your eyes and see the garden of your life. Notice which plants are blooming and which ones have withered away. Say thank you to what once was. Bless it for teaching you. And then, gently, Stop watering what will never bloom again, because you deserve a garden full of new life, not memories of what used to be. 2. Your comfort zone is a beautiful cage. The comfort zone. It feels safe, familiar, and easy. It's where everything seems predictable, where your routines protect you from the unknown. But beneath that sense of safety hides a silent truth. Comfort can become a beautiful cage. It doesn't chain your hands or feet. It binds your potential. You begin to live the same day over and over again, mistaking routine for peace and stillness for stability. The Buddha once taught that attachment is the root of suffering. And what is comfort, if not another form of attachment? You hold on to what feels safe, even when it keeps you small. Your comfort zone is not a peaceful garden. It's a room with soft walls that whisper lies. It tells you, stay here. Don't try, don't risk. You're fine as you are, but deep down, you feel it. A quiet ache that something inside you wants more. You sense that you are meant to evolve, to explore, to challenge yourself, and yet your mind resists. It fears uncertainty because growth always comes wrapped in discomfort. Think of a seed buried underground. For it to grow, it must crack open. The darkness it once found comfort in must be shattered by light. The same happens to you. The moment you try to expand beyond your comfort zone, life will test you. You'll feel fear, self-doubt, and resistance. But those emotions aren't there to stop you. They're signals that transformation has begun. The comfort zone often disguises itself as peace, but true peace is not the absence of challenge. It's the presence of inner strength. Staying comfortable is easy, but easy never changed anyone. The Buddha didn't reach enlightenment by staying in a palace surrounded by luxury. He left it all behind to face uncertainty, hunger, and solitude. Why? Because truth cannot be found where comfort rules. You must walk through the fire of growth to discover the calm of wisdom. When you choose to step outside your comfort zone, you start discovering the parts of yourself that have been waiting to be seen. You find courage you never knew existed. You learn that fear doesn't mean stop. It means you're close to something meaningful. Every discomfort, every failed attempt, every shaky step is a sign that you're moving in the right direction. You're breaking the invisible walls that kept your spirit confined. Love yourself enough to challenge your own limitations. The old you stayed where things were easy. The new you walks toward what feels uncertain. Don't fear failure. Fear remaining the same. Because every time you resist change, you deny your soul the chance to grow wings. The butterfly doesn't mourn the loss of the cocoon. It celebrates its freedom. You too must let go of the comfort that once protected you so you can rise into your next stage of being. Ask yourself, when was the last time you did something that made you slightly nervous, slightly uncomfortable, but deeply alive? That's where growth begins. That's where your soul wakes up. Your comfort zone will always try to convince you that later is safer, but later often turns into never. The perfect moment to evolve doesn't exist. It begins the moment you take one step forward. Remember this. The comfort zone feels like home, but it's not your destination. It's just a resting place between two versions of yourself. Don't let safety become your identity. Love yourself enough to walk away from the cage, even if it's made of gold. Because beyond those walls lies your freedom, your purpose, and your peace. The kind that only comes when you dare to grow. 3. Don't confuse familiar pain with true peace. One of the greatest traps in life is mistaking what feels familiar for what feels right. Many people stay in situations that hurt them, not because they love the pain, but because the pain has become predictable. It feels safe to the mind. The Buddha often spoke about this attachment to suffering, how the mind clings even to what causes distress simply because it fears the unknown. We tell ourselves, at least I know this pain, at least I understand it. But that is not peace. That is imprisonment disguised as comfort. Familiar pain is like an old song your heart keeps replaying. You know every note, every lyric, every emotion it brings, but it's a song of sorrow, not serenity. True peace, on the other hand, often begins in silence, the silence of letting go, the silence of change. The moment you choose to step away from familiar suffering, your mind will panic. It will whisper, "Go back. You were safer there," but what it really means is, go back to what you already understand. The unknown terrifies the ego because growth cannot be controlled. But the soul, your truest self, was never meant to live within the same walls forever. Many people confuse routine pain with emotional safety. For example, someone who grew up in chaos may unconsciously seek chaotic relationships because peace feels foreign. Someone who's always struggled may sabotage success because failure feels like home. The mind clings to patterns not because they're healthy, but because they're known. This is why awakening begins when you question not only your suffering, but your attachment to it. Ask yourself, am I at peace or am I just used to the pain? Buddhism teaches us that suffering exists, but it also teaches that liberation from suffering is possible. To free yourself, you must first see clearly. Observe your life. What situations drain you but feel strangely hard to leave? Which emotions do you replay even when they bring no peace? Awareness is the first doorway to release. Once you see the pattern, you can begin to loosen your grip on it. Think of your old emotional wounds as rooms you keep revisiting. They're dark, dusty, and cold, yet they feel like home because you've lived there for years. You've decorated the walls with memories and convinced yourself it's safer than stepping outside. But imagine what would happen if you finally walked out into the sunlight. At first, it would hurt your eyes. The brightness would be overwhelming. But soon, you'd see colors you never knew existed. You'd feel warmth you forgot you deserved. That's what leaving familiar pain feels like. Uncomfortable at first, but healing in time. Peace doesn't beg for your attention like pain does. Pain screams, peace whispers. Pain feels dramatic, peace feels quiet. That's why so many people chase noise, arguments, addictions, overthinking, because silence scares them. But that silence is where peace hides. When you learn to sit with stillness without needing to be distracted, you begin to taste what true peace feels like. It's not excitement, it's freedom. It's the kind of calm that doesn't depend on anyone's approval or anything external to stay steady. To love yourself enough to outgrow familiar pain, you must stop trying to fix what keeps breaking you. Stop calling it love when it's actually fear of being alone. Stop calling it destiny when it's simply habit. True peace is not found by returning to what hurt you. It's found by forgiving it and walking away. The Buddha taught that the mind creates both suffering and liberation. The moment you stop identifying with your pain, it loses its power. It takes courage to walk away from what you've always known, especially when your heart has built its identity around it. But growth doesn't happen in the shadows of your old wounds. It happens when you allow the light of awareness to enter. You don't heal by going back. You heal by stepping forward into the unknown, trusting that peace is waiting for you on the other side. Real peace doesn't demand you to shrink or silence yourself. It doesn't require you to beg for love or constantly prove your worth. It feels expansive, light, and effortless. It feels like finally being able to breathe after holding your breath for years. So if something in your life feels heavy, repetitive, or suffocating, even if it feels normal, it's time to question it. Normal doesn't mean right. Familiar doesn't mean peaceful. Letting go of familiar pain doesn't erase your past. It honors it. It means saying, "Thank you for teaching me what I needed to learn, but I no longer need this lesson." It's giving yourself permission to choose calm over chaos, clarity over confusion, truth over illusion. You deserve a peace that doesn't hurt to hold. So love yourself enough to walk away from the comfort of suffering. Let the silence of healing replace the noise of pain. Allow your soul to rest in spaces where it no longer has to fight to exist. Because peace is not found by returning to the storm, it's found by realizing you were never meant to live in it forever. 4. You can't carry new blessings with old baggage. Imagine trying to climb a mountain while carrying a bag filled with stones from your past. Each stone represents something you refuse to let go of. An old memory, a regret, a betrayal, a failure, a version of yourself you still mourn. You begin your climb full of hope, but the weight grows heavier with every step. You tell yourself, "I can handle it," yet your spirit grows tired. You want to rise, but gravity, the pull of what you won't release, keeps dragging you back down. That is the nature of emotional baggage. It doesn't stop your journey all at once. It slowly exhausts your soul until you mistake exhaustion for fate. In Buddhism, there's a simple truth. You can't receive what's meant for you if your hands are still holding on to what has ended. Life is a constant flow, energy moving, transforming, renewing. But when you cling to the old, you block that natural movement. You close the door on blessings that are knocking because your heart is still occupied with memories that should have been let go long ago. The Buddha taught the importance of the empty cup. You cannot fill a cup that's already full of old water. It must be emptied first. The same is true for your soul. So many people beg for new beginnings while dragging the remnants of old endings behind them. They pray for love but keep comparing everyone to the one who hurt them. They seek peace but continue replaying the chaos of the past. They ask for clarity but refuse to let go of confusion. And they wonder why life feels stagnant, why nothing seems to change. It's because you cannot move into a new season wearing the armor of your last one. Letting go doesn't mean you forget or pretend it never happened. It means you stop reliving it. It means you stop identifying yourself through your pain. You acknowledge the lesson, bless the experience, and release it with gratitude. That's how you clear spiritual space. You see, every painful experience has a teaching hidden inside it. Once the lesson is learned, holding on to the pain is like keeping ashes long after the fire has gone out. It serves no warmth, no light, only weight. You can't carry new blessings with old baggage because blessings travel light. They come where peace has made room for them. Have you ever noticed how your life feels lighter after a deep emotional release? After crying, forgiving, or finally saying goodbye? That's not weakness. That's renewal. That is the moment your spirit becomes spacious again, open to receive new gifts. Holding on, however, is like keeping every door locked in a house that desperately needs sunlight. You might feel safe from disappointment, but you're also shutting yourself off from joy. Every wall you build to protect yourself from pain also blocks the light trying to reach you. The old baggage you carry, resentment, anger, guilt, doesn't punish the people who hurt you. It punishes you. It keeps you tethered to moments that don't deserve to define you anymore. To release old baggage, you must first look inside the bag honestly. Ask yourself, what am I still carrying that no longer belongs to me? Is it a relationship that ended, but I still replay? Is it a mistake I made years ago that I keep punishing myself for? Is it a version of myself I can't forgive? The act of seeing is the beginning of letting go. You can't heal what you refuse to face. Sometimes the heaviest baggage is not from others, it's from yourself. It's the voice inside that says, "I should have known better," or "I'll never be enough." These are the stones that quietly accumulate in your heart, the ones that make joy feel far away. But remember this, the person who made those mistakes didn't have the wisdom you have now. You can't judge your past self with the awareness of your present. Compassion must replace criticism if you want to move forward freely. In Buddhism, the path to enlightenment is a process of unburdening, of letting go layer by layer, until all that remains is awareness itself. When you cling to the old, your vision is clouded. You begin to see life not as it is, but as it was. But when you release, even little by little, the fog begins to clear. You start noticing small joys again, the sound of the wind, the beauty in a quiet morning, the warmth of your own breath. These are signs that you're becoming light again. The universe works in cycles. When you let go of something that has expired, you send a signal that you trust life's rhythm. You tell the universe, I am ready for the next chapter. And then, without warning, new blessings begin to appear. It could be a new person who values you, an opportunity that excites you, a moment of peace that fills your heart. But these blessings only come when you've created space for them. Life cannot pour into a vessel that's already overflowing with old emotions. Think of your life like a garden. Every experience you've ever had planted a seed. Some bloomed beautifully, others withered away. But if you never remove the dead plants, no new growth can thrive. Love yourself enough to clean the soil. Pull out the weeds of resentment, clear the dried leaves of regret, and prepare your garden for a new season. The gardener doesn't mourn what has died. They use it as compost to nourish the new. You can do the same with your experiences. Turn your pain into wisdom, and your wisdom into peace. To outgrow the old you must stop dragging your past behind you like a shadow. You must stop identifying with old titles, old roles, old mistakes. Every day is a new opportunity to travel lighter. You don't need to explain who you were. You just need to become who you are meant to be. When you finally release the old baggage, you'll feel something extraordinary. A weight lifting not just from your shoulders, but from your soul. And in that lightness, blessings flow naturally. So open your hands, loosen your grip, whisper to yourself, I am ready to receive. Because the universe has never stopped offering you gifts. It was only waiting for you to let go of what no longer fits. You can't carry new blessings with old baggage, but once you put the past down, you'll realize the climb was never too hard. It was just too heavy. And now, finally unburdened, you can rise. Would you like me to now write Lesson 5? Silence isn't loneliness, it's rebirth, in the same long, emotional, easy to understand and poetic Buddhist tone. 5. Silence isn't loneliness, it's rebirth, expanded version. Silence often frightens people because it strips away distraction. In the quiet, you are left alone with your thoughts, your memories, your truth. For many, that truth feels heavy. We live in a world addicted to noise, conversations, screens, music, endless motion, anything that keeps us from hearing the sound of our own hearts. But the Buddha found enlightenment not in noise, but in stillness. He sat beneath the Bodhi tree, surrounded by silence until every illusion dissolved and only awareness remained. That silence wasn't emptiness, it was rebirth. When you first step into silence, it can feel like loneliness. You may miss the chaos that once filled your days. The old self, the one that needed validation, attention, or distraction, will start to panic. It will whisper, something's wrong. You're alone. But silence isn't punishment. It's a mirror. It shows you what you've been running from. It reflects the emotions buried under years of noise, the fears you denied, the desires you silenced, the wounds you never healed. If you sit long enough in that quiet, something begins to shift. The mind, which once screamed, begins to soften. Thoughts slow down. The past loses its grip. You start hearing a new kind of voice, gentle, patient, guiding. This voice doesn't belong to the world, it belongs to your soul. That's when you realize silence isn't the absence of sound, it's the presence of yourself. In Buddhism, silence is sacred because it reconnects you with the present moment, the only place where life truly happens. When you stop talking, stop scrolling, stop performing for others, you begin to sense life breathing through you. You notice the rhythm of your heartbeat, the rise and fall of your breath, the way light filters through a window. These simple observations pull you out of the storm of overthinking and into awareness. In that awareness, healing begins. The old you thrived on noise because it offered identity. You were the person who needed to be busy, needed to be seen, needed to prove something. But silence strips all that away. It leaves only essence. At first, that emptiness feels unsettling, like standing in a room after everyone has left. But give it time. That emptiness is not nothingness. It's pure potential. It's the space where your new self begins to grow. When a caterpillar enters the cocoon, it is surrounded by silence and darkness. No one claps for it. No one watches. Inside that stillness, the old form dissolves completely before the new one takes shape. The process is invisible, quiet, and sacred. The same is true for you. Every moment you spend in silence is a cocoon for your transformation. It's where the noise of the old self fades and the wings of the new self form. Don't mistake isolation for peace, but don't mistake peace for isolation either. There's a difference between being alone and being lonely. Loneliness is a hunger for external connection. Solitude is nourishment from internal connection. In silence, you learn to be your own companion. You realize that you are never truly alone because awareness itself is always with you. The Buddha once said, "Peace comes from within. Do not seek it without." This means your stillness has always been the medicine you seek. The more comfortable you become with silence, the less dependent you become on the world for peace. The noise of the world may continue, but it will no longer disturb your inner stillness. You will learn to carry silence within you, a calm that no chaos can touch. To love yourself enough to outgrow the old you, you must make peace with quiet. Let it teach you. Sit beneath your own Bodhi tree, even if just for a few minutes each day. Breathe deeply. Listen to the space between your breaths. Let the silence wash through you like a river cleansing away dust. With time, the loneliness you once feared becomes serenity. You begin to crave that stillness, not because you're escaping life, but because you've finally learned to live deeply within it. Silence is not an ending, it's a return to your essence before the noise of the world told you who to be. It's where your intuition awakens, where your heart remembers its rhythm, where your soul rediscovers its purpose. Every great transformation in nature happens quietly. The sunrise, the blooming of a flower, the turning of the seasons. Your rebirth too will come quietly. So don't run from silence. Walk into it. Sit with it. Let it speak to you in ways words never could. Because one day you'll look back and realize it wasn't loneliness that healed you. It was the sacred stillness where you finally met yourself again. 6. You don't heal by becoming who you were. You heal by becoming who you needed. Many people, when they begin to heal, carry a silent desire to get back to who they used to be, the version of themselves that smiled more easily, that trusted more openly, that felt lighter before life became heavy. But that desire, though innocent, is misplaced. The old you cannot return, because that version of you existed before you walked through the fire that transformed you. The Buddha once taught that no person steps into the same river twice, for the river has changed, and so has the person. Healing is not about going back, it's about moving forward, not toward your past, but toward your wholeness. You don't heal by becoming who you were. You heal by becoming who you needed when you were hurting. The child who needed safety, the teenager who needed guidance, the adult who needed rest, love, and understanding. Healing is an act of reparenting your soul, of showing up now with the tenderness you never received before. It's not about restoring your old self. It's about honoring every version of you that survived long enough to bring you here. Think about the old you for a moment, the one you miss, the one that seemed happier or freer. That version of you didn't know what pain was coming. they hadn't yet faced betrayal, loss, or disappointment. They hadn't been broken open by life's lessons. You can't return to that innocence, but you can rise into wisdom. You can transform that pain into compassion, that loss into understanding, that sorrow into depth. The old you was strong, but the new you will be aware. The Buddha's path to enlightenment began when he left his palace, the place where everything was comfortable and known, to face the world's suffering. In doing so, he didn't return to who he was before. He became someone entirely new, someone awakened. In the same way, when you walk through suffering, it changes the shape of your spirit. You begin to see differently, feel differently, live differently. That is not damage, it's evolution. Pain does not destroy you. It dismantles everything that isn't you, so the truth can emerge. Healing means you finally stop searching for your old light because you realize your wounds have created a new one, a softer light, a deeper one, a light that doesn't blind but guides. The person you were before pain saw the world through innocence. The person you are becoming will see it through wisdom, and that is far more powerful. When you try to become who you were, you resist life's natural unfolding. You cling to an identity that no longer fits. Imagine trying to wear clothes from childhood. They may remind you of who you once were, but they no longer allow you to move freely. In the same way, your old identity cannot contain the person your soul is now expanding into. Let it go with gratitude. Say to yourself, that version of me did their best with what they knew. I honor them, but I am not them anymore. Becoming who you needed means nurturing yourself with the love and wisdom you once sought from others. If the old you was neglected, become the presence that offers care. If they were silenced, become the voice that speaks truth. If they were lost, become the guide who leads them home. This is how healing turns pain into purpose, by using what once broke you to build strength in others, starting with yourself. Often people fear that changing means losing themselves, but the truth is, you don't lose the essence of who you are. You shed the illusions that kept you from seeing it. The layers of fear, guilt, and shame begin to peel away, revealing something purer underneath. Healing isn't about becoming new, it's about remembering who you were before the world told you to forget. This process is not always beautiful. Healing can be messy, lonely, and confusing. There will be days when you miss your old self because she didn't overthink so much, or when you miss the numbness because it felt easier than awareness. But keep going. Every time you choose presence over avoidance, softness over bitterness, faith over fear, you are becoming who you needed. You are rewriting your own story with gentleness. In Buddhism, this is the essence of metta, loving kindness. It begins with the self. When you send love inward, when you forgive yourself, when you speak to yourself as gently as you would to a friend in pain, you begin to heal from the inside out. You begin to embody the compassion you once searched for in others. The Buddha said, "You, yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." To become who you needed is to finally live by that truth. As you heal, you'll notice subtle shifts. The things that once triggered you lose their power. The people who once drained you fade from your circle. The goals that once defined your worth no longer excite you. Instead, you crave peace, quiet mornings, sincere conversations, honest living. That's not regression, that's evolution. You are shedding the layers of the old you that were built from survival and stepping into the new you who thrives in awareness. One day, you'll look back at the old you, the one who cried, who doubted, who felt lost, and you'll smile, not with pity, but with gratitude, because without them, you would never have found the strength to transform. Every version of you was necessary. Every fall, every scar, every heartbreak was a lesson in becoming who you needed. So don't chase the old you. Thank them for carrying you through the storm. Then, step forward into your rebirth. You are not broken. You are becoming. You are not going backward. You are unfolding. And every time you choose to love yourself through the process, you bring more light into the world. Remember, you don't heal by going back to who you were. You heal by embracing who you're becoming, the wiser, calmer, more compassionate version of you who now knows that peace isn't something you find, it's something you create. And it begins the moment you decide to become the person you always needed. 7. When you let go, you don't lose yourself. You finally find yourself. There comes a moment in everyone's life when the things that once made sense suddenly stop fitting. The people you used to chase begin to drift away. The dreams that once burned bright start to dim, and the identity you wore like armor begins to feel heavy on your skin. You stand at the crossroads of who you were and who you're meant to be, terrified that if you let go of the old, there will be nothing left. That fear is one of the deepest illusions of the human mind, the belief that letting go means losing yourself. But the truth, as the Buddha taught, is the exact opposite. When you finally release what you are not, you begin to discover who you truly are. Letting go is not the act of erasing your past or denying what you once loved. It's the art of returning home to yourself. It's removing the masks you've worn to please others, releasing the expectations that have imprisoned your joy, and unbinding the pain you've been carrying as proof of your identity. The ego thrives on attachment. It says, "This is who I am, my story, my trauma, my success, my failure." But awareness whispers a softer truth. You are none of these things. You are the space in which they come and go. When you begin to let go, the first thing you encounter is fear. Fear of emptiness, fear of uncertainty, fear that you will become invisible without all the things that used to define you. The mind panics when it no longer has a story to cling to. That's why so many people hold on to their pain, because at least it feels familiar. But the soul does not fear emptiness. It welcomes it, for in that emptiness, it can finally breathe. Imagine a hand clenched tightly around a handful of sand. The tighter the grip, the faster the sand slips away. But when the hand opens, what remains is peace. Letting go works the same way. You cannot hold on to people, things, or experiences without also gripping pain. True peace comes when you stop fighting life's natural flow and learn to open your palm, to trust that what is meant for you will stay, and what leaves was never yours to begin with. The Buddha compared attachment to holding a burning coal and expecting others to feel the heat. The longer you hold it, the more it burns you. When you let go, you don't lose. You heal. You release the illusion of control and surrender to the truth that life was never meant to be held, only experienced. Each breath, each moment, each encounter is fleeting, yet sacred. When you live with this understanding, you stop trying to possess life and begin to participate in it. Letting go is not always peaceful at first. It can feel like dying, because in many ways it is. The old self must die for the new self to be born. You might grieve for the relationships that no longer align with your path, the opportunities that slipped away, the dreams that dissolved. But grief is the soul's way of clearing space for rebirth. Just as autumn trees let go of their leaves, not because they hate them, but because they trust the cycle of life, you too must release the weight of yesterday so that spring can come again. Think of your life as a river. The water moves endlessly forward, carrying with it the story of everything it touches. Sometimes it flows gently. Sometimes it roars with force, but it never stops moving. The moment you try to hold on to one droplet, one moment, one identity, one relationship, you step out of the flow. You stagnate. The water becomes still, heavy, lifeless. Letting go means stepping back into the river, allowing yourself to be carried by the current of life instead of resisting it. When you let go, you also begin to see how much of your suffering was self-created. You realize that much of your pain came not from what happened, but from your refusal to accept it. The Buddha said, Pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Acceptance is the antidote to suffering. The moment you stop saying, "This should not have happened," you open the door to peace. Life doesn't always unfold the way you planned, but it always unfolds the way you need. So many people cling to their past because they think it defines them. I am this way because of what happened to me. But the truth is, what happened to you is not who you are. It's what happened for you. Each experience, no matter how painful, carved wisdom into your being. Letting go doesn't mean forgetting your past. It means understanding it from a higher place. It's realizing that every heartbreak taught you love, every loss taught you strength, and every ending guided you closer to truth. You begin to find yourself in the stillness that follows surrender. The noise quiets, the inner storm calms. What remains is awareness, pure, spacious, and unshakable. You discover that you were never lost. You were simply buried beneath layers of fear, expectation, and desire. In letting go, you don't become less, you become whole. You return to the essence that existed long before life taught you to hide. Letting go also means freeing others. You stop trying to control people, fix them, or make them stay. You begin to love without ownership. You understand that every soul is on its own journey, and sometimes love means releasing someone with grace. When you let go of attachment, relationships transform from cages into gardens, places where growth, not possession, thrives. The practice of letting go extends beyond emotions. It touches every part of life. It means not forcing outcomes, not rushing timing, not fighting what is. It means surrendering to the wisdom of the present moment. The Buddha taught that grasping leads to suffering, but letting go leads to freedom. When you surrender to the flow of life, you align yourself with the universe's natural intelligence. You realize that the same force that makes flowers bloom and stars shine also guides your path, and it doesn't need your control to do so. But make no mistake, letting go doesn't mean apathy. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you care deeply but without clinging. You act with love but without demand. You give your best but without attachment to results. This is the middle path, the balance between effort and surrender. It is the state where peace and purpose coexist. To let go, you must trust. Trust that what's meant for you will not pass you by. Trust that even if something leaves, something greater is preparing to enter. Trust that your path is unfolding exactly as it should, even if it doesn't match your expectations. Trust that life, in its mysterious way, is always conspiring for your growth. The irony of letting go is that it brings you closer to everything you were chasing. When you release your obsession with control, peace finds you. When you stop begging for love, it flows naturally toward you. When you stop forcing outcomes, success begins to align effortlessly. The moment you stop chasing is the moment you start attracting, because you are no longer moving from lack, you are moving from fullness. Letting go is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of your freedom. It's where the noise stops and clarity begins. It's where the old self dissolves and the true self awakens. Every time you release something heavy, you rise higher. Every time you forgive, you become lighter. Every time you stop resisting, you align more deeply with life itself. When you finally let go, you realize something profound. You never lost anything real. What was meant for you can never truly leave you because it becomes part of your growth. The relationships, the experiences, the pain, they all live within your wisdom now. You didn't lose them. You transformed them into light. This is the essence of Buddhist wisdom: impermanence, acceptance, awareness, and love. The leaf that falls from the tree doesn't die in vain. It nourishes the soil for new life. Likewise, everything you release enriches the garden of your soul. So, if life has been calling you to let go of someone, of something, of an old version of yourself, Know that it's not asking you to lose. It's inviting you to remember who you were before fear, before attachment, before pain. To remember that your worth isn't tied to what you hold on to, but to what you allow yourself to become. When you let go, you don't lose yourself. You finally meet yourself, the self that is vast, unshakable, and infinite. You meet the part of you that doesn't need validation, that doesn't crave control, that exists in pure being. That is the self the Buddha discovered under the Bodhi tree. That is the self that lives in you, patiently waiting beneath the noise, the fears, and the masks. Letting go is the bridge between suffering and peace, and once you cross it, you'll wonder why you ever feared it. You'll see that the version of you that clung so tightly was only trying to protect you. But the one who releases is the one who finally understands that freedom is your natural state. So breathe deeply. Exhale everything that no longer serves you, the past, the worry, the need to control. Inhale presence, trust, and grace. Because in that breath, in that surrender, you will realize you never needed to hold on to life. You only needed to allow it to flow through you. When you let go, you don't lose anything real. You simply return home to yourself. 8. The art of becoming nothing, where true freedom begins. There is a quiet truth that very few people are willing to face, that the self you have spent your whole life trying to build was never truly you. From the moment you were born, society began to shape you. Your parents told you who to be, your teachers taught you what to value, your peers showed you how to act, and the world rewarded you for fitting into its design. Slowly, layer by layer, the noise of the world covered the voice of your soul. You became a collection of roles, names, titles, and stories, an image of yourself. You built walls of identity so tall that you began to mistake them for your home. But beneath all of that, beneath the roles, the achievements, the fears, something eternal still waits. And to find it, you must be willing to become nothing. In Buddhism, this is the essence of awakening, the realization that there is no permanent self to protect or defend. The ego, that fragile identity that says, "This is me," is just a thought, an illusion the mind uses to navigate the world. The Buddha called this illusion anatta, or no self. It doesn't mean that you don't exist. It means that you exist beyond all definitions. You are not the body, the name, the past, or the story. You are the awareness that observes them all. But the only way to return to that awareness is through surrender, through the art of becoming nothing. At first, the idea of becoming nothing sounds terrifying. The ego whispers, "If I let go of who I am, what will remain?" But the irony is that it is this very who I am that keeps you from peace. The self that constantly strives to be successful, to be loved, to be understood, is the one that suffers. You chase validation, collect experiences, and fight for recognition, thinking that the more you add to your identity, the happier you will become. Yet, the more you accumulate, the emptier you feel, because truth cannot enter a space already filled with illusion. Becoming nothing is not destruction, it's purification. It's the process of removing everything that is not real. Imagine a mirror covered in dust. You don't need to add more reflections to see clearly. You need to wipe away what hides the light. In the same way, you don't need to find yourself. You need to let go of everything you are not. Every false belief, every expectation, every attachment. When you strip them away, what remains is not emptiness, it's presence. It's the silent awareness that has always been there, watching, waiting, loving. This is why the Buddha sat in silence under the Bodhi tree, not to become more, but to become less. He didn't seek enlightenment as something to gain. He sought to remove the layers that obscured what was already there. Enlightenment isn't a reward for effort. It's the natural state that emerges when effort stops. The moment you stop trying to be someone, you become everything. The art of becoming nothing begins with stillness, When you sit quietly and observe your thoughts, you start to notice how temporary they are. One moment, the mind says, "I'm happy." The next, "I'm angry." Then, "I'm afraid." These thoughts appear and disappear like clouds in the sky. But you are not the clouds. You are the sky itself, vast and unchanging. The ego identifies with every passing thought. Awareness simply watches. The more you rest in that awareness, the more you dissolve into peace. You might think, but if I become nothing, won't I lose my motivation, my relationships, my identity? Number. You'll simply stop clinging to them. You'll love more purely because your love will no longer come from need. You'll work more joyfully because your actions will no longer be about proving your worth. You'll live more fully because you'll no longer fear loss. When you become nothing, you stop trying to take from life and begin to flow with it. Every moment of pain in your life has been an invitation to practice this art. Every disappointment, every loss, every ending was life gently teaching you to let go. Each time something left, a person, a dream, a season, it was creating space for awakening. The problem is that the ego sees loss as tragedy, while the soul sees it as truth. The Buddha said, "All conditioned things are impermanent. Strive on with diligence." What he meant was this: everything you hold will eventually slip away, but in that slipping away lies freedom. When you understand this, you begin to live differently. You stop arguing with reality. You stop expecting permanence from things that were never meant to last. You start to see the beauty in impermanence, in the way flowers bloom only to fade, in the way sunsets die only to rise again, in the way every goodbye carries the seed of a new hello. To become nothing is to merge with this rhythm, to accept that life and loss are not opposites but reflections of the same truth. The deeper you go, the quieter it becomes. You begin to notice that the world around you may still be loud, but inside there is a growing silence, a stillness that nothing can shake. This is not apathy, it's peace. You start to move through life like water, soft yet unstoppable. You adapt, flow, and accept. You stop trying to bend the river and instead become the river itself. There is immense strength in this emptiness. It's not weakness to be nothing, it's liberation. When there is no you to defend, no you to please, no you to prove, fear dissolves. Criticism loses its power. Failure stops existing because there is no one left to fail. You simply act from awareness, not ego, and every action that arises from awareness carries the fragrance of compassion. To become nothing is also to become everything, because when you stop identifying as a separate self, the boundaries between you and the world dissolve. You begin to feel life deeply. The laughter of a stranger, the rustle of leaves, the stillness of dawn, all of it becomes part of you. The distinction between I and it fades, and what remains is pure unity. You are no longer a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean realizing it was never a drop. But this journey demands patience. You can't force yourself to become nothing. That very effort is the ego trying to achieve enlightenment. You must relax into it. You must learn to trust stillness. When you meditate, don't try to silence your mind. Let it wander, let it flow, and just watch. Slowly, the watcher grows stronger, and the noise fades into the background. This is the natural unfolding of awakening, effortless, graceful, inevitable. And in that silence, you will notice something extraordinary: joy. Not the joy of excitement or pleasure, but the quiet joy of being. The joy that comes from existing without demand, without judgment, without attachment. You'll realize that peace was never lost. It was simply buried beneath the noise of becoming someone. When you become nothing, that peace rises naturally, like sunlight after a long night. Eventually, even the idea of becoming fades. There is no one left to become, no goal left to reach. There is only awareness, vast, timeless, infinite. You sit, breathe, and simply are. And in that stillness, life begins to unfold through you effortlessly. You become the song, not the singer, the breeze, not the branch. To love yourself enough to outgrow the old, you means to love yourself enough to let yourself vanish, not into despair, but into truth. You vanish as an identity, but emerge as consciousness. You disappear as a character, but awaken as the witness. You stop living as a person and begin living as presence itself. And that ultimately is what enlightenment means. It's not about becoming a perfect human being. It's about realizing there was never a separate being to perfect. It's about resting as the awareness that has always been here, watching, loving, and flowing. So when the world tells you to find yourself, smile gently. You cannot find what was never lost. You can only dissolve what is false. Sit quietly, breathe. Let go of the need to be anyone. Let go of your stories, your wounds, your ambitions, even your search for peace. What remains in that vast emptiness is not nothing. It is everything. It is freedom. It is love without reason. And in that sacred moment, when you finally stop trying to be, you will awaken to the greatest truth of all. You were never missing. You were simply hidden behind the noise of becoming someone. When you become nothing, you find that you have always been infinite, whole, free. And now, as this journey comes full circle, take a deep breath. Feel the quiet stillness within you, that gentle space that has been expanding with every lesson, every reflection, every small act of awareness. You began this journey believing that to love yourself meant to hold on tighter, to cling to people, to memories, to the version of yourself you thought you needed to be. But now, you know the truth. Loving yourself is not about holding on. It's about letting go. It's about trusting the process of becoming, not through force, but through surrender. The path of outgrowing the old you is not a straight road. It's more like walking through a forest that keeps shifting its shape. Some days the sunlight filters through the trees and everything feels clear. Other days, fog covers the trail and you can't see where you're going. But even when the way seems uncertain, something inside you, a quiet inner knowing, keeps guiding your steps forward. That knowing is your true self. It's the same awareness that existed when you were a child, before the world taught you who to be. It's the still voice that keeps whispering, "Keep going. You're becoming who you were always meant to be." Each lesson on this path has been a mirror, showing you a new face of truth. When you stopped watering the dead plants of your past, you learned that not everything that once gave you comfort was meant to last forever. You discovered that letting go isn't failure, it's faith. It's the soul's way of saying, "I trust life more than I fear change." And in that trust, you began to breathe again. You began to reclaim the energy you were wasting on what no longer served you. Then came the realization that your comfort zone, the place that once felt like safety, was actually a beautiful cage. It kept you from growing into your strength. You learned that the edges of discomfort are where the light enters. You realized that peace doesn't mean staying still. It means learning to move with grace through uncertainty. Growth is rarely comfortable, but neither is remaining small. And so you chose courage over comfort, movement over stagnation. As you walked further, you began to notice how often the mind mistakes familiarity for peace, how easily it clings to what it knows, even if it hurts. But pain, when repeated, doesn't become peace. It becomes a pattern. You learned to break that pattern. You learned to stop confusing the comfort of old suffering with the truth of inner calm. And when you finally stepped away from familiar pain, you realized how deeply you had been craving real peace, the kind that doesn't demand you to shrink or beg, but allows you to simply exist. In the next stage of your journey, you faced your baggage, the memories, regrets, and expectations you carried like stones in your heart. You learned that you can't hold on to yesterday and still walk freely toward tomorrow. You began to empty the cup of your soul, not because the past was worthless, but because it had served its purpose. Every moment you released became a moment of renewal. You stopped carrying what was heavy, and suddenly your steps felt lighter. That's when new blessings began to arrive, not because life had changed, but because you had made space for them. And then came silence, the silence you once feared. The kind of silence that once made you uncomfortable now began to feel like home. You discovered that silence isn't loneliness. It's the birthplace of clarity. It's where the noise of the world fades and the voice of your soul grows louder. In silence, you no longer needed validation or distraction. You could finally hear your own truth. You realized that silence wasn't empty. It was full of answers. As your awareness deepened, you reached one of the most profound truths of this path. You don't heal by becoming who you were. You heal by becoming who you needed. You stopped trying to go backward in time to find the version of you that existed before pain, because that version of you, though innocent, didn't yet have the wisdom you carry now. Healing became an act of creation. You began to build yourself from love, not from lack. You learned to become your own protector, your own nurturer, your own teacher. You stopped seeking outside what could only be found within. And then you learned the secret hidden behind every loss, every surrender, that when you let go, you don't lose yourself. You finally find yourself. You realized that the person you thought you needed to be, the one chasing validation, clinging to control, was never the real you. The real you is vast, spacious, and free. The real you is not the storm of emotions or the story of your past. It's the calm awareness watching it all unfold. You are not losing anything by letting go. You are remembering what has always been there. But the journey didn't end there. Beyond all the lessons lies the greatest truth, the art of becoming nothing, the final release. The ego fears that state because it believes it means disappearing. But becoming nothing doesn't mean vanishing. It means returning to your essence. It means recognizing that you are not separate from anything, not from the trees, the sky, the ocean, or the people who walk beside you. When you become nothing, you merge with everything. You dissolve the illusion of I and them, mine and yours. You awaken to oneness. You realize that life has always been happening through you, not to you. And in that realization, peace stops being something you search for. It becomes something you are. You begin to live differently. You move through the world with quiet grace. You no longer chase love, you radiate it. You no longer fear endings, you welcome them as transitions. You no longer run from pain, you listen to it as a teacher. Life stops being a battle to win and becomes a dance to experience. The Buddha once said, "When I let go of what I am, I become what I might be." This is the heart of your journey. You've learned that growth doesn't happen by adding more to yourself. It happens by subtracting everything that isn't true. You've learned that self-love is not self-indulgence, it's self-liberation. It's choosing to stop fighting the flow of life and instead trust it completely. Now, as you stand here, lighter, clearer, more aware, take a moment to look back with gratitude. Not regret, not shame, gratitude. Because every version of you that you've ever been was necessary. The one who held on too long, the one who cried in silence, the one who doubted, the one who hoped. They were all part of the same unfolding. Each version carried you closer to this moment, this awareness. The old you walked so the real you could fly. And perhaps the most beautiful part of this path is knowing that it never truly ends. You will keep shedding, keep awakening, keep returning to yourself again and again. Because growth is not a destination, it's a rhythm. It's the eternal dance of becoming and unbecoming, of holding and releasing, of forgetting and remembering. Each time you let go, you find a deeper layer of truth. Each time you surrender, you discover a new kind of peace. So now, breathe deeply. Feel the air enter your lungs, the heartbeat in your chest, the stillness beneath it all. You are here. You are whole. You are free. You have not lost anything. You have simply remembered who you truly are. You are the witness behind every story, the light behind every shadow, the awareness that remains when everything else fades. Let this be your final reminder. You are not your past. You are not your fears. You are not the person others think you should be. You are consciousness in motion, infinite, timeless, unbroken. When you love yourself enough to outgrow the old you, you do not abandon yourself. You return home. And in that home, that vast, silent space of pure awareness, you finally understand there was never anything to become. There was only something to remember. You are and have always been enough.